Class when I read. According to Butterfield, what emerged was not just a portrait of the Boskets, the gentleman Willie Bosket, the one who's now serving consecutive life terms. Youth tried as adult because of Willie Bosket. But a new account of the origin and growth of violence in the United States. Violence is not, as many people today presume, a recent problem or a peculiarly urban bane. Rather, it grew out of a proud culture that flourished in the antebellum rural South, a tradition shaped by whites long before it was adopted and recast by some blacks in reaction to their plight. The records also show that the vast majority of people put on trial for violent crimes in antebellum South Carolina were whites. The slaves were believed to be, or thought to be, a gentle people. Butterfield describes two forms of violence among the lower and upper classes: knockdown, drag out, where individuals often had their nose, eyes, or ears ripped from their bodies, and dueling, shooting and killing as a means for gentlemen to settle disputes. Now, I want to put this in perspective in terms of my research that looked at respect. Are you following me? What was modeled is honor and manhood. How does a 16-year-old black male in America get respect? Remember who modeled it. A duel is just a dressed-up drive-by. But what I understand about that how are you a man as a black man in America? If you don't have the material means to assert dominance or control over your resources, you have learned helplessness. Research tells us that too. Or you have hyper-masculinity where I've got to assert my manhood somewhere and somehow. So I'll strike fear in you. Survival, adaptation. Adaptation. How do you learn to survive and adapt in a hostile environment? That's what black people have done all this time. And sometimes we heal crooked. Sometimes we did. But let me tell you this one thing. I don't know, where am I in time? Okay, let me just move and I'll give you time to give me questions. But I want to give you, let's see, put the slide up in terms of adaptation. What I did discover in my research, by the way, is that all my hypotheses are correct. The more urban hassles, more violence, more victimization, more violence, more witnessing, more violence. Racial socialization, middle variable, written by Howard Stevenson, out of Penn State, black man. He said, this is a resiliency factor, so pay attention to this. He suggested racial socialization as an important way of measuring how black people cope and adapt. Well, what is racial socialization? You help black children, black men, women know that you're walking out on a racially charged battlefield, but you give them armor. I'm going to tell you, you don't have to be worried. You don't have to trust what my high school counselor told me, which was that I wasn't college material. Don't trust that. But you know what? We got your back. You got a God. You got mama, daddy, big daddy. We here for you. And guess what? You're not a descendant of slaves after all. You're a descendant of captured free men and women. And you know what? It's going to be all right, because joy comes in the morning. And we found out that the way you socialize a black child, you have less violence. I look right here at Portland. 200 African-American males, 100 incarcerated, 100 were not. Some of them were in the Rites of Passage program. People know Kevin Fuller. Yeah, I used that as a control group, and I used 100 of them that were incarcerated, and found out that those who were racially socialized were less likely to be violent. But more important was what I discovered about respect. And what I discovered about respect is that when you disrespect black males, and what do they do in prison? They try to break them. You're going to create a prisoner. You're going to create a criminal. You're going to create a sociopath. Because if you disrespect him, you're going to have more violence. And guess what? I put all the variables, multiple regression, stepwise regression analysis. So I wanted to look at all the variables and how they behaved and performed. Highest, greatest predictors of violence. What were the most significant predictors of violence among African American male youth? All 200 of them. After victimization and witnessing fell out, respect. Now, more importantly, what does respect mean? What does respect mean to a black male? I ask people, what does respect mean? I asked white men. White men told me it means earned regard. When I asked black men, they said it's a sense of worth and value. Much deeper, isn't it? Guess what respect means? Doesn't mean either of those, by the way. Comes from the Latin. Respect. Look again. That's what respect means. Look at me again. Don't look the first time. Look again. That's what it means to respect. And that's all these young men were saying. Please look at me again. And I want you to put that in context. I see you. Look again. That's what my research taught me, that these young men wanted you to look at them again. But we can't look past our socialization in America. So we need to socialize them. These are the destructive behaviors. Let's look at the corrective behaviors. I'll just put it up there and we'll talk about them. Because we did have, not pathology, we have resiliency built up. These are the things we've used through the years, and I've broken them down from Ma'afa all the way to current status, the things. And I want to note for you that during Katrina, after we all know little was done, they employed the very same methods to wrap you in so that you would go to sleep, to subjugate and oppress. What do you have to do to subjugate or oppress any group of people? You must justify the behavior by what? Relabeling them, and after all, they're just looters and rapists. Then they wrap you in that and go black. More died after that. I've been in the Ninth Ward. My family's from Louisiana. But they aren't even telling you the number that died after Katrina. They don't even tell you about it because they've already convinced you they're bad people, even here in Portland, in Dallas, everywhere. We've relabeled them so everybody can wrap themselves in that. So we do have positive behaviors. We do understand once we look at some of these behaviors around how we look at each other, how our attitudes, we can in fact turn them around, but you can't change what you don't know. The book is full of those. I certainly didn't have enough time in this day to share it. I don't do justice to what the book does because it does go in great depth. Chapter 6, which is a chapter on healing, the reason I wrote the book. Note the title, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, America's Legacy of Enduring Injury and Healing. We can heal. Imagine we've come this far with no help. Imagine how much more we can do if we understand it. And we can start changing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joy. I really, really appreciated that, and I'm sure the rest of the audience did also. I'm just kind of bowled over it. That really impacted me, and I don't really know where to start. So what I would like, we don't have any time. We were supposed to end at 1:30, but I just was not going to interrupt her. And, if people have any questions, this is the time, or you can wait till it's over. Thank you.
In comparison, when you talk about Katrina, first thing that when I heard about Katrina, the first thing I thought about was Vanport.
Of course.
It's one of the same.
Of course.
So,
And the Vanport flood, the displacement, all the things were the same, and also the disparity with what black people who experienced, not just black people, but poor whites as well. Matter of fact, they used to do I don't know if they do it now for incoming professors here at Portland State, they used to show a video of the making, because this was called Vanport College. And the first time I saw it, not only was there not a black person in it, there were no women in the whole video, and they thought that was okay. So I complained a lot and brought pictures and gave it to them. So anyone that's seen it, I don't know if they've added black folks in there, but when I first came into the program, there were no black people apparently. But there were poor blacks and whites in Vanport, that place called Vanport, and the flood killed far more than what the newspaper accounts said, based on the accounts of the people themselves, right? So you still had that, and then you had, again, further displacement, and again displaced again. So these are things that are, again, right up in front of us. It happens, and we are silent, which is the reason why it continues that.